All right, Audrey
All
Whitehead,
right.
this mic is all yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. I love it. I'm so happy to be here. Thursday, December 14th already, the day before my mama's birthday. My mummy's going to be 79 years old tomorrow. And I just think that's just amazing. She's just so awesome. She's just amazing person. I believe she is spirit too. I believe she has the knowing, and she doesn't say it's not with words, but it's really just her presence. So I'm grateful for my mama. And we're reading A Course in Mysticism and Miracles, Begin Your Spiritual Adventure with John Moondy. I think I might go over a little bit today past noon. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure that'll be okay with Lynn if I'm 5 or 10 minutes over. She'll say, no, you can't. So we were in chapter 4 last week, and we got down to talking about cosmic consciousness, and we talked about a quote from Rudolph Otto, which I just have to say it because, gosh, that song, The Rose, that Reverend Wing played in his last program there earlier here. Gosh, man, that song, I used to play it on the organ. I couldn't play like all the chords and stuff, but just one of the one main, just the main easy part. And gosh, I just love that song. I had tears streaming down me as I was singing it. The birds were all like, wow, what's going on? They're all fluffing up because I'm just belting out this song. Oh my God, thank you. So Rudolph Otto says, same flower, different garden. Whether the flower of mysticism blooms in India or in China, in Persia or on the Rhine, its fruit is one. So that's just beautiful after hearing the Rose song. So we'll just continue in here about talking about how Evelyn Underhill described 4 characteristics she found common to all mysticism. Although her descriptions vary slightly from Jane's, which we discussed last week. So mysticism, she argued, Evelyn Underhill, is an entirely spiritual activity, in no way concerned with adding to, exploring, rearranging, or improving anything in the visible universe. The business and method of mysticism, she concluded, is love. It draws the whole being homeward, always under the guidance of the heart. That's so beautiful. Yeah, so it just makes me think of course, I am only here to be truly helpful. And I could say that, and I meant it as much as I could mean it at the time. You only can do your best in each moment. That's what I've seen. I've learned through Don Miguel Ruiz, actually, Ruiz, the 4 agreements. That was just like 1, be impeccable with your word. 2, don't take things personally. 3, don't make assumptions. 4, always do your best. I just felt that those were my guiding principles before I found the course. That's really what I followed. I actually put those 4 aspects into my wedding vows with my still now husband, my only husband, and I just feel that here, this whole business of love, doing your best, how you know how to do it in the moment. Looking back, surely I could see my mind was not right. And so my best was, selfish and still wanting to change the world. I didn't have that knowledge that, the world is insane. Well, I did know that, but I didn't know. So, yeah, okay, here we go. It draws the whole being homeward, always under the guidance of the heart. It is an experience of the whole self, and most important for Underhill, as for Jane, mysticism entails a definite psychological experience arrived at by arduous psychological and spiritual progress. Thus, it is essentially practical, not theoretical. And then here's where the new stuff is. I did read that. The disastrous feature of our civilization, French-German philosopher and physician Albert Schweitzer, is that it is far more developed materially than spiritually. Yeah. So our world is that, yeah, we've developed more materially than spiritually. It's all about the stuff, the thing, the next good best deal. Okay, the technology's coming out. Now we got 4K or whatever. We don't pretend. So this observation is no doubt even more relevant today than when he made it 100 years ago. Wow, he already said that 100 years ago, that it was far more developed materially than spiritually. Holy moly, and look at how things have changed in 100 years. Wow. Schweitzer's interest in mysticism led him to appreciate the Pauline concept of being in Christ as the most important concept of Christianity. In his book, Paul and His Interpreters, A Critical History, Schweitzer distinguishes between three categories of mysticism. The first is primitive mysticism, is a view of union with divinity brought about by esoteric ceremonies found in the most primitive of religions, including the rites and rituals still observed in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. These attempts at, quote, devotion, he concluded, are moving in the right direction, but fall far short of true mystical experience. So then we go to the Pauline mysticism, which is a more advanced and intellectual form of mystical experience involving a mystical union with Christ, which is ultimately the same as being one with God. And finally, the third is universal mysticism, a more developed form of mysticism found in the Greek mystery religion, in which a conception of the universal is reached by an actual experience of a relationship with the totality of being. In its intellectual form, this concept of mysticism is found among Buddhists and Brahmins and Platonism and Stoicism, and in the writings of 17th century Dutch philosopher Spinoza and the 19th century German philosophers Hegel and Schopenhauer. Wow, so those are the three: primitive, Pauline, universal mysticism, according to Schweitzer. No discussion of the development of modern mysticism would be complete without considering the work of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who must be included as a pioneer in the field of mystical study. Although Jung claimed that he was not a mystic but a scientist, he dove deeply into what he called the collective unconscious and found there a wealth of information. Through a study of alchemy, he discovered a vast array of archetypal images, including patterns of thought and images present in the psyche of mankind. Unlike his contemporaries Underhill and Schweitzer, however, he never devised a list of characteristics of the mystical state. Nonetheless, He sounds much like a mystic when he writes in Man and His Symbols. From the standpoint of the gods, this world is less than child's play. It is a seed in the earth, a mere potentiality. Our whole world of consciousness is only a seed of the future. And when you succeed in the awakening of Kundalini, so that she begins to move out of her mere potentiality, you necessarily start a world which is a world of eternity, totally different from our world. And he says he's the scientist. I would say he might be both. Now, Romanian scholar Mircea Eliade, another major contributor to the study of mysticism, saw it as central to genuine religion. Influenced by Ruda Body, Eliade wrote extensively on what he called the eternal returns, the belief that religious behavior, the participation in sacred events, restores mythic time. In his 1954 Cosmos and History, the myth of the eternal return, he argues that the perception of linear time is different from an awareness of sacred time, which he saw as cyclical. Very interesting. I know a lot of teachings, like even with Regina Don teaches about the loop, what I see, I believe, what I believe, I see, and there's also, the cyclical. I just did a little in my planner with stickers. I made stickers and it's a circle. It starts out like the top of just being who I am, and then fall and the and it's a circle, circle, um, not linear. So I see when I'm seeing things in my, it is loop, and it's almost like the loop, your circle, it starts inside, and it could get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and wider, and it just keeps growing into the bigger circle. That's how I envision time. And any point in the circle could be where you are. So, all right, let's keep building on all these scholars and philosophers. Humanistic psychologist Abraham Maslow made a major contribution to contemporary mysticism, religion's values, and peak experience, where he defined a mystical or peak experience as one of those times when the entire pretense of the personality and all fear drops away. We seem to be in touch with the whole universe. That's beautiful. And it goes to show that this thinking that I seem to have always had, which it seems esoteric and that's not even in this moment. I look at it, always in the land of the la la in my head, or so how I felt or was told, because sorry about that. That was my mouth. So yeah, when and reading this and knowing like people how long ago, 1950, but it's a couple decades, and this realization, this knowing has always been here. I love reading these books that outside of education from the university that only has the certain people in it that, Carl Jung's in there. Sure, yeah, but I don't hear about, these other people, Ilya Lead or any of these guys that John's mentioning. And I love to hear that there's just more people that are in this state of knowing. Like, it's so beautiful that knowing that I'm not just out there, you know, I'm in this realm and all is okay. So that is so beautiful. I love that. It's one of those times when the entire pretense of the personality and all fear drops away, and we seem to be in touch with the whole universe. And I think that would be in the course what we would describe the whole universe. Just absolutely beautiful. Let's keep going here. In 1969, Sir Alister Hardy, author of The Flame, a book on the evolution of religion, founded the Religious Experience Research Center to investigate the nature of mystical experiences. Interesting, eh? Called the Religious Experience Research Center. The Religious Research Center, they're investigating mystical experiences. Love it. Originally located at Oxford University, the center is now located at the University of Wales. It sponsors lectures, publishes journals, has a distance learning program, as well as on-site presentations. Hardy's organization has studied thousands of descriptions of mystical experiences in an effort to determine their primary causes. In one study, respondents were asked to identify what triggered their experiences. The results are given below as the number of mentions per 1,000 experiences in descending order of frequency. So the first, the highest, the highest per 1,000 experiences at 183 is depression and despair, and what triggered this experience. And the second is meditation and contemplation at 136 per 1,000. So you've got depression and despair, that dark night of the soul, right at the top. And you've got your meditation and contemplation coming in. Natural beauty comes in at 123 per 1,000. Then participation in worship or chanting at 111. Literature, drama, film, 82. Illness, 80. Music, 56. Crisis in personal relations, 37. Grief, death of a loved one, 28. Sacred places, 26. Visual arts, 24. Creative work, 20. Prospect of death, 15. Silent solitude, 15. Anesthetic drugs, 11. Physical activity, 10. Relaxation, 10. Childbirth, 9. Happiness, 7. Psychedelic drugs, 7. Sexual relations, 4. Wow, look at that. So that is very interesting. Asking what identified to identify what triggered their experiences. The top was depression and despair. And you've got like the psychedelic drugs way down at a 7. Jeepers, and happiness at a 7. Silent solitude, 15 out of 1,000. So yeah, depression, despair, meditation and contemplation, natural beauty, worship and chanting. Those are the top 4 at over 100 or over 100. That's very interesting, I find. Huh? Interesting. All right. Hardy's contribution to the scientific study of religion is reviewed in David Hayes' book. Something there. The Biology of the Human Spirit. Since these pioneers, several good books on mysticism and a great deal of research and writing in the field have appeared. In addition, we now have the insights of various scholars who have done psychological analyses of the mystical state. Last but not least are the testimony of thousands of individuals who have experienced mystical awareness. Together, these provide the ground. It is new. I just want to finish to the end of the chapter, which is not too much. I'm sure that'll be okay. So mysticism as perennial philosophy. The term perennial, meaning persistent or enduring, and persistent or enduring, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, like like gardening. But yeah, it also means persistent or enduring, which, yeah, the seed is persistent. That was coined by 18th century German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Perennial philosophy is also called universal because it shows up in all cultures from Asia to Africa, from Europe to the Americas. The perennial view holds that because there is one core of truth, when we study the diversity of mystical experience, we are looking at one phenomenon with many different expressions found in many different cultures over a vast period. Mystics and sages from a variety of different places and times record similar perceptions about the nature of the self, reality, the world, and the purpose of existence. Aldous Huxley popularized this term in his perennial philosophy. Mysticism, when seen as perennial or universal, is the height of religion because it includes all attempts to reach the beyond within the heart, mind, soul, self, regardless of how they are practiced. Each of the great world religions receives its most sublime interpretations from the mystics. Lao Tzu, Buddha, Jesus, Nanak, Mahavira, and the founders of various other religious traditions were not institution builders. I thought it was going to say we're not institutionalized. But they were not institutional builders, okay? They were mystics and teachers. As 19th century Indian Swami Vivekananda expressed it, mystics in every religion speak the same tongue and teach the same truth. And the last part of this chapter is Mysticism 101, and it says, by combining the insights of pioneers in modern mysticism, we can construct the following definition. And here it is. Mystical experience is, firstly, an experience of God, an experience with intellectual, emotional, and sensory components, an experience that includes personal transformation and fascination, an ineffable feeling that cannot be described in words, only pointed to. A noetic experience that includes an awareness of immortality. A simple and yet profound existential state. A transcendental moment that happens outside of time. A passive event in which all control is gladly turned over to God. A practical, not purely theoretical event that leads. A non-judgmental event not aimed at changing or fixing others. An experience in which there is no subject-object, only oneness. An oceanic, which all blends and melts to oneness. A perception of freedom from sin, guilt, and fear. An existential sense of awe, wonder, joy, and bliss. An event that leads to a state of enlightenment. And finally, a state in which love, truth, and God are all that remain. And so that is a definition constructed by combining all the insights that those pioneers came before us. 16. That's how the chapter 4 ends. And I'm so grateful that that I was allowed to go over a little bit. I know that there isn't another program after this one, so well, there's recordings and such that's been put together, so it's all perfect. We've got what is this? We've got in the chat, it says worship and chanting are riddled throughout the Old Testament. Song was their weapon against their perceived enemy. Interesting. Thank you very much for that. That was their, so that concludes my reading this week. I'll be back next week to pick up on chapter 5. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity, Lynn. And thank you to ACIM Gather. I'll release the mic now.
Thank you so much, Audrey. We love you and are so grateful for you.